hardware got corroded in there, dude. It was that humid and gross in there. But it was so cool, and it was just that intimate. Everybody was right up front.
Oh yeah, you're sharing sweat and body fluids.
Gross. Yeah, it was fucking.
None of us showered on a regular basis back then.
I couldn't imagine how bad we actually smelled back then too. I mean,
no,
you come out of a show, hop in the van, drive home, like, fuck, we must have been pretty ripe, yeah.
Oh yeah, it's like living on a farm. You kind of get used to
that
shit smell,
exactly.
You know?
Yeah. Oh, that just smells like fucking balls and armpits. Okay. My name is Dustin Geiger, bass player, local Bismarck Mandan musician for life, currently playing in the band Penumbra.
You chose Ford over Chevy.
Sure did.
Why? Because Ford has a more powerful engine for all the towing you do?
Yeah, but that's not why I bought it.
Because Ford has a longer, deeper box for all your hauling?
No.
The low price?
Nope.
Okay, why Ford over Chevy?
Have you driven a Ford lately?
Ford F-150. Now's the time to buy. Get yours loaded with equipment and save over $2,400. Plus, get $750 cash back. Ford F-150.
Have you driven a Ford lately?
Result.
My first car was a truck, 1991 F-150 XLT Lariat package. Two-wheel drive, 5-speed manual transmission. The famed 300 straight six, the last of the straight sixes for Ford ever. So
wow, okay.
Yeah.
Is that front wheel drive?
It was a rear wheel drive truck.
Okay.
No 4-wheel drive. Regular cab, 8-foot bed. The Lariat package was kind of deceiving. Nowadays, you look at a Lariat and it's like a luxury sort of loaded up with the leather and all that stuff.
Uh-huh.
This one, I think the Lariat package was pretty much just like the fold down armrest in the middle of the seat.
Okay.
Velour seats.
Yeah.
Flat leather. Everything was manual, like window cranks, everything. Yeah. But it was clean. It was nice. And it was, when it was 1998 when I got it, I was 17, and my dad picked it out. I think he was kind of tired of me driving his truck at that point. I had a license, but I just didn't have a truck.
Right.
And I needed to haul cleaning equipment for when I worked for them, and also, of course, music stuff. I was already in Perosity at that point, when I was 17, and so he kind of picked it out, and it was manual transmission. I'd never driven before.
Yeah,
just kind of interesting.
That's how you learn.
Here's this truck. Go for it.
Yeah.
So it took a little while. It's frustrating, but the other thing about those trucks too is you got this big 2-foot shifter handle and a clutch throw about that far. Push the pedal into the floor, and it's like you'd let it out about 6 inches before it start to catch. So it was a little tricky to get used to. You know what I mean? But yeah, 2-wheel drive sucked in the winter. Obviously, not a great idea. Yeah. Probably whatever. It is what it is. But it was brown. It was dark chestnut metallic, I think is what they called it.
Okay.
It's actually kind of a pretty color. With some weird things about it. It had it had that inline 6, first of all. Yeah. Which is an odd engine. It had like kind of a whiny, like kind of weird sound to it. It didn't sound like a V8 or a V6 even. And heavily like nice low end torque on it or whatever, but it was gutless. Oh, so gutless, like just getting up and going. Horsepower was like lacking, but they're bulletproof, those things. Yeah. 73,000 when I bought it, so it was pretty average mileage at that time. It was really, really clean. I can't say, like most people I've seen on this podcast are like, oh, this is a piece of shit. I had this piece of shit before. Yeah. I had some of those along the way, but my first one was actually really nice. And my folks had helped me. They made a little down payment and then just kind of turned over payments to me. And cool. I drove the fucking shit out. I mean, just drove the piss out of that thing. It was my first car. Yeah. I drove for work. Of course, I was driving out of town to play shows and stuff. So it was like I racked up 90-some thousand miles on the thing in like less than 3 years. Yeah. So, yeah. And then Well, the other thing I was going to tell you is a weird thing that had was 2 gas tanks. Some of those had that back then. The Silverados had them back then at one point, too.
Yeah.
They were small. One was a 14, one was a 16. But you had the option with a little rocker switch to hit the front and the rear. So you'd be
if you ran out of one,
boom.
you just
you could
flip
just switch
the switch
to the other one. So the way I did it, because I drove for work too, my front tank was like my work tank, and my rear tank was like my rec tank.
Okay.
That I would just use for driving around.
Yeah.
So I kind of always when I would get paid, I would fill that one up, the front one, and then you know what I mean. So I would switch it back and forth when I was done working. I'd switch it to the other one. So that was kind of a cool thing.
Yeah.
But now I've got like a truck with a 35-gallon gas tank on it, so a 14 and a 16 doesn't seem like that much gas nowadays. But it's an interesting feature. Yeah, it was a really, really nice truck, but
nice.
it met its demise. Not a crash or anything, but basically the value was sucked out of it when we had that. Did you guys play that show with us, by the way? 2001. It was June 2001 at the Stod House.
Oh, yeah.
You guys might have been on that. We got like the worst hailstorm I've ever been involved in. Do you remember that?
Did that show even happen?
I think it actually did happen. Okay. This happened. We showed up probably like 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon.
I was driving around in that storm. That was the scariest shit I was ever involved in.
I remember
Holy cow.
It was wild because it was like, early afternoon, mid-afternoon by the time we got there, whatever time it was. And it was that just wet air, 85 degrees and just like miserably humid, and all of a sudden it's like blackness in the sky. Yeah. And it's like before we even knew it, I mean, everybody's vehicle out there just got smashed.
Yeah, we were driving from Bismarck to Mandan, and right in between, when we're on that bridge, it started hailing golf balls, maybe bigger.
Yep, massive, yep.
And that windshield started cracking up. Oh, no. Spidering all across it, and I put a bag up on the passenger side, hoping to save it. I thought it was all going to collapse in, and then we tried getting under a bridge, but that was full. A bunch of cars already under that, so we had to kind of keep going. Oh, it's just scary. I thought there was going to be a tornado flipping us at any second.
Yeah, well, and it was accompanied by wind too. I mean, it was a nasty storm, and I remember, at the end of it, we walked out and everybody's vehicles were just like aluminum can, just dense, top to bottom.
All those hail damage companies came to town and they were like, hot dog.
They did. And I had State Farm insurance at the time. Boo. Anyway, sorry, State Farm. And they had at the time they had something set up at the Bismarck Event Center where you would have to it was a catastrophe site or whatever, where you'd have to drive in because there were so many people making claims at one time.
Oh, wow.
And you'd sign a little thing and you'd go through, and then they'd have an assessor walk around, then you'd drive out, and then they tell you. I actually cashed out pretty good on it. Okay. I think at the time, I don't know what that truck would have been worth anymore, just for the high mileage and things like that, but I think I got about $3,500 or something for it at that time, $3,300 maybe, for my totaling it out, basically. Yeah. This is the most cash I ever had in my pocket at one time when I went to the bank. I was like, whoa, look at that stack. Yeah. But then I probably blew it on, who knows.
Hookers
beer.
And blow.
Yeah, hookers, blow, beer, bases, who knows.
Yeah. It's a lot of beer, though. Especially if you're drinking hams or PBR or something.
We drank a lot of Schmitz back in the day.
Oh, man.
Schmitz, you remember Schmitz when they used to have the red cans when they'd have like a cougar or a deer or something on them?
I knew somebody who had a Schmitz light-up globe. And it had a Schmitz logo that would go around it.
Sweet.
Yeah, it was fucking some of those old beer. I don't know. They just made things for bars.
Those
or
cool
for
signs.
sale.
Yeah. Like my brother had a Olympia beer.
I don't recall that.
Olympia is like it's a Washington brand.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, it's like I can't remember what it is again, what their motto is, or what the tagline or whatever. But it was basically like a waterfall. You turn the light on, it looked like the waterfall.
Nice. That's awesome. Yeah.
I had an MGD can, about probably 18 inches tall. It just looked like a little replica MGD can. And that one had like a rotating thing, so you could see the
That's cool.
Lettering go around, light up and stuff. So
I bet all that shit's really collectible.
I bet I still have that thing. I don't know that it works anymore, but I bet I still have it somewhere.
Yeah, it's probably worth a buck or two.
Yeah, and then Schmidt. Yeah, we drank the cheap stuff or whatever. But Schmidt's was funny that way because it's like, oh, what are we gonna get this time? We're gonna get bobcats on our, or you know what I mean, or like Mountain goats on the can or something like that.
Remember that SNL commercial? I think it was Schmidt's Gay.
Yes.
Yeah, that's so funny.
Oh my God, that Chris Farley.
Still my
era
favorite.
was so good.
Yeah.
Do you remember that they also, when that first debuted live, they had Van Halen's "Beautiful Girl" or whatever that song is?
Oh yeah, yeah.
If you go back and watch like the best of Chris Farley
Yeah,
or whatever,
yeah.
that's not
It's
in
different,
there
yeah.
anymore. Yeah.
I didn't know that was
I
the OG.
bet, I'm sure Van Halen didn't appreciate that. Maybe being on the Schmidt's Gay commercial.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
I didn't know that. That's so funny.
I remember that. But anyway, yeah. So I had that thing for. I got it in '98. Drove, like I said, the fucking piss out of it. Got hailed out. Still was drivable and everything, but I was looking for something that I could haul because it was a regular cab, and I could only. It's cool when you got your lady and you got her in the middle and you're shifting between her legs. Yeah. It's like really feel like a real cool truck dude, but at some point, when we're hauling equipment and people, it's like I needed to get something, a van or whatever. So the next up would have been another Ford. I should probably clear the air and just. This Ford Chevy Dodge thing that people have going on.
Oh, right,
I was
right.
raised a Ford guy, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
My dad's prized possession is his 1976 F-150. And that's an XLT with the Ranger package. I don't even know what the hell Ranger package means, but
I don't either.
It's a hot rod, man. 390 factory. Still has it.
Nice.
If you ever see an elderly gentleman driving a green, like 76 F-150,
Yeah.
do this. And when I
Okay.
do that, I'm doing like a spinning my finger, because if
Yeah.
you do that and he sees it, he'll probably light it up for you.
Oh,
He
yeah,
loves
that's
that
awesome.
thing. So I was raised a Ford guy. That actually was, like I said, when I got my truck, it was him tired of me driving his truck around. And
Right.
I love that thing.
Is he one of those Ford guys that when he sees a Chevy or it's always like
He doesn't now.
Okay.
So I have some brothers that are a little bit more biased, if you want to call
Sure.
it that. I do have a brother that works for Ford too, as a technician, service technician. So those guys are a little bit more shit on Chevy sort of thing. My folks had Chevys, Chryslers. He had that F-150, and then he had a 1979 Caprice Classic, two-tone blue. So they had Chevys and stuff too. Later on, he had some Chryslers, and I never had much luck with Chryslers myself, but
Yeah.
I'm not much of a Ford guy anymore. I like Ford trucks, but their cars and their SUVs don't really thrill me, so I have a lot of Hondas nowadays. But
All right.
anyway, so the next up would have been a Ford. It's a 1994 Ford Club Wagon XLT, which is basically like a Econoline van, but it's a passenger van. But that was enough that I could have one back seat in there, put all the boys in there and all our equipment, and be able to actually, hop in one vehicle instead of driving two vehicles down to Fargo to play or something like that. you know?
Sure.
So
this kind of became the band van.
that was the band van.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's awesome.
And again, it was pretty clean, pretty nice van. I'm pretty anal about my vehicles, and so that we used to joke that it was the cleanest van in the underground.
Yeah, I
And
don't
it
think
was.
I've ever seen one.
Yeah, it's
A clean
right,
van.
yeah, right. Everybody else would pull up and it rusted out. Kind
Yeah, they open the doors, shit just falls out.
Yep. And I always kept mine nice and shiny, and took a lot of pride in that. But that was the OB days, though. That was when Omnipotent Belligerence was able to hop in the van and go to Fargo and all these other places. We played a lot in Fargo. God, other than just a bunch of, I don't know.
A bunch of people up to no good. I'm sure there's stories you're like,
so that's the thing, right?
What can I say here?
It got, it's probably a lot of illegal activity happened on the way there and on the way back, but nothing too bad by today's standards. I am from a family of musicians, so the Geigers are. My dad is he started playing gigs when he was like 13 years old. He plays old-timey, he always played this old-timey stuff with his brothers. He has two brothers that played accordion, one brother that played trumpet, and then he played saxophone, clarinet. To this day, he plays alto, tenor, soprano. We do a little like jazz trio thing together. But that's how it started, is that we come from a family of musicians. My brother, one of my older brothers, was a drummer. when I was a little kid, I'd sit behind that drum set and I'm like, I'm going to be a drummer someday.
Yeah.
This would be so cool. And then a friend of mine in probably 5th or 6th grade got a guitar, like a PV, like Stratocaster ripoff thing and the little 8-inch amp, right? The combo thing. And so then I was like, well, guitar seems like a cool thing. Maybe I do guitar. And I think I remember he was not there for some reason, went out to do something, and I had his guitar in my room with, playing single notes. I didn't know how to do anything other than play single strings. I was like 12 at the time. And for some reason, this is the weirdest thing. I don't know, it's some kind of fate or something, man, but I start tuning the strings down just to get this lower sound out of it.
Oh, yeah.
And next thing I know, I'm like, boom, 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 boom. And he comes walking back in the room like, I think I'm going to play bass. And that's literally how I decided I want to play bass guitar. And I never look back. I'm not one of those. I'm a purist. I'm not like, I play guitar in this band and I play like drums in this band. And then I also play bass. It's like, that's all I ever did.
Yeah.
Aside from attempting to sing and stuff from time to time.
Right.
But that's kind of the way that started. And then I was, like 13 probably, got a pretty legit bass and amp, 14. My folks were super supportive of it. I had some piano lessons and junk like that, like younger too, which helped.
Okay, so you could read music.
It helped. Somewhat. I never really put myself into piano. Mm-hmm. It was a good experience just to know notes.
Yes.
But reading them on a sheet was never my strong point. And then, I just, to this day, it's mumbo jumbo to me when I look at sheet music. I'm an ear guy. I always play by ear. I played, bass guitar in the jazz band in junior high, and in Mandan, and I'd met Tim Martinezson, and I was kind of just starting to grow my hair out and be like, kind of a rocker dude.
Yeah.
And Tim was way ahead of me already. He already had like an awesome like rocker mullet going on.
Oh yeah. Sure.
And I was like, I like this dude. All right, I should probably talk to this guy. I knew he played drums. He played percussion in band and tried playing drums in jazz band. And so I kind of stayed in touch with him, even though he was in the same class, but he was about a year older than me, and I kind of looked up to him. And then from there, it was like I sat in my basement from 13 till about 15. And I would jam with other friends that had guitars and stuff, but we never had like a band. We never had a drummer and stuff. Played a bunch of Black Sabbath.
Cool.
Pretty much learned every Black Sabbath song I possibly could at that point. And then, Tim just called me up out of the blue one day and was like, hey, I've got this band I'm trying to put together. You want to, I'm like 15 at the time. It was like, I was probably like a couple months from being 16 years old. And, so I come over and it turns out it's his brother, his older brother, who's like 7 years older than us probably. And then this other dude is about his brother's age. And initially, this is a funny story this way because initially it was supposed to be like, hey, try out for this band. Later on, I found out that they already had a bass player who didn't have any gear. And they were trying to get me to come bring my shit over.
Oh, no.
And have this guy, like, play my gear, basically. And then we all jammed together, and they were like, well, fuck this guy, man. This kid's way better than this, like, 20-some-year-old dude, And so that's how it ended up happening. And then I started playing with Tim, and we just locked in immediately. And, we were in however many bands together. But his older brother and this other guy, it was a lot of, like, kind of thrashy covers, like some, I guess at the time, like some Alice in Chains, so like some grunge stuff and kind of thrash stuff. And we called ourselves Shattered Silence at the time. And
it sounds like a high school.
Yeah, well, these guys were in their 20s, but we were, they were still stuck in like a different era probably at that point. But we, so these guys, the other thing about that is I thought like when I was 15, 16, I hung out with these guys, I'm like, I've drank before. I've had some beers. I've had a little whiskey and stuff, I've done this shit. And then I met these guys. Holy shit, dude. The first time I ever went there was like 2 cases of beer.
Yeah.
Let's fucking drink. And so that was an experience learning how to drink with these older dudes, and they drank.
Yeah.
And so the way that it developed after that was that we were in Shattered Silence, and these guys were just kind of, his brother and this dude were kind of a wreck all the time. They were drunk all the time. And they actually went to go on a beer run, and they were gone for hours, probably sitting at the bar instead of actually getting beer. They brought some back, but probably sat there for hours drinking. And at the time I was, because I had sat there by myself and just pissed around, just writing my own stuff, and it was I was into like Sepultura a lot and Crowbar and all that stuff. So I had all these riffs. So I grabbed one of the guitars because me and Tim were just sitting there doing nothing, and put it in drop D and started playing, and me and him just like clicked on this shit. And I'm like, hey, I have vocals for this too. I have lyrics. I don't know what I'm going to do, but let's try it. And it ended up sounding like, if anybody's heard the Perosity stuff, I wrote that stuff when I was like 15, and that voice is kind of like a mix between like Kirk Winstein from Crowbar and like a Max Cavalera from Sepultura, kind of like a human voice. It wasn't that low guttural growl. Right. This is what I had at the time.
Yeah.
And so we fucked around and played probably like at least 2 songs and kind of wrote them while they were gone. And then they showed up with this, all this beer, and we were like, hey, check this shit out, man. And we played these couple of songs for them, and they were like, yeah, that's cool. Should we just practice now or what? Like, well, fuck you guys, man. It wasn't much longer after that everything kind of crumbled with that anyway. And then it became Perosity, and then it was me and Tim, and then we brought a couple other people on at that point, and all that eventually evolved into what became Omnipotent Belligerence. But anyway, our first show was Halloween, and it was with Insects and Bleem.
Oh, gosh.
Right?
Yeah, I haven't heard these names for a while.
Right, dude? Exactly. So, yeah, it was Halloween 97, and we advertised the shit out of it. I think maybe the fact that it was Halloween, we got so many people. I mean, there were probably like 300 people that came through the door at some point.
Yeah.
And just had a blast doing that. And then I don't remember. I think we played probably a month later. We ended up playing at Hotel Bismarck. Mm-hmm. They had some shows over there. I'm trying to remember all the gigs that we did with that band. I think it felt like at the time, because we were young and stuff, it felt like we're playing so much, and we're going somewhere with
right,
us.
Yeah, that's how everyone feels.
And it was like, it was probably we played like 5 times. You know what I mean? But we did end up recording, because we'd worked on those songs forever, for like almost a year by the time we were actually out there doing it. And but before we were ever in bands, that punk scene at the Midtowner was such a thing all its own that it was wild, this renaissance that we had of this hardcore punk scene down there. And we loved that. And with Perosity, we were more like groovy thrash or whatever, it was a little bit different. Like I said, more of a Sepultura type of vibe to it or something. But when we got into the Omnipotent Belligerence stuff, that's when we were like, we had seen so many. Do you remember the BBS, dude? The Belligerent Bastard Squad?
It sounds familiar.
We saw them at Hotel Bismarck, one of those shows they had over there. They were the crustiest, most raw, ridiculous, hardcore punk stuff you've ever heard. Huh. And we loved it. I loved that stuff. And so it was weird because we started OB as a metal band, but we didn't want to take ourselves too seriously and be that dark. We're like the metal. Right, we're not the metal, So it ended up being like a little bit of a hybrid of that and that kind of that hardcore punk attitude that was going on down there. We were playing as like the only metal band on punk shows. When we were playing with you guys, it was all more hardcore punk stuff, and then us.
Right.
Which we fit in somehow. People liked it. Mm-hmm. But it was a different sort of vibe that we were going for. Not so much metal, but just like, I don't know, trying to like confuse people, I guess, if you want to call it that. Our music did that too, but our attitude, we'd show up in some of these places, like say the first time we ever played in Fargo, and we show up and we're wearing polo shirts and sandals and dressed like, suburban dads. Yeah. And then Fargo at that time, and they still do, their metal scene is metal, man, and there's nothing wrong with that. I love, shout out to Gorgatron and all my boys down there. I love those guys. But at the time, it was really a metal scene that we were coming into, and we, like I said, we came in and almost like he has described it as like an Andy Kaufman-esque type of like, we're going to show up and you're going to be like, who are these guys, dude? Did they come to play like Weezer covers? No. That first, like, Purge and Pure Ego, that song, just like one fucking China. And I mean, people were like, holy shit, these guys, man. You know,
Yeah.
these guys came, and like I said, showed up, and the lead singer's a fat guy with bleach blonde hair wearing a polo shirt. You know, you have no idea what the hell. And then it got to the point where, you know, maybe I should go back a little bit and kind of talk about the formation of that band, because that one was a conscious one. It wasn't like I had some songs, I know a drummer and a guitar player. It was like, it was me, Tim Martinezson, Jamie Paul, and Jeff Robsam, who had all jammed together before, decided like, we're going to do a band that's going to be what we want a band to sound like. Like, this music it's not for the people, it's for us, and we're going to share it with the people. So it's a weird, like this is, if I was to put together like my favorite sounds all in one band, this is what it would sound like. And so it was a conscious effort to do that, and it took us forever to write these songs because they were sort of like all over the place. You remember that shit? It was like one part here, and somebody would start bobbing their head in the crowd, do it, and fuck you, we're going over to here, and we're doing now, it was like this crazy.
I love doing that. That's so much fun. We did that a little bit with TSS.
Oh yeah, I love that you guys did that. I loved playing shows with you guys because you guys had that same kind of vibe like that too.
We
you
played
would
a
go
lot
from
of shows
something,
together.
This groovy stuff, and then there was just like, you know, fucking straight up gallop and punk
fast
stuff.
speed,
Hell yeah. And so, there was a lot of influences back then for us, like Soylent Green was a big one, Suffocation, Internal Bleeding. So, like, a lot of these, like, kind of death metal bands, but they had this fucking groove to them.
Yeah.
Like Slam, like, if you haven't heard of these bands, check them out, by the way. Suffocation, back in the mid-90s was like, they had this fucking dum-dum-dum-dum-dum-dum-dum, this just fucking groove to them. And yeah, so we kind of took those elements, and then we also had like that punk scene that we were involved in there in Mandan, and it became, Fargo bands started describing it as the Mandan sound once they had heard not just us, but like after us, another band in that same vein came along, Happy End. You know, my brothers from Lords of Sorcery, shout out, but so Happy End kind of had that, like, there was always a groove. It was heavy, but there was always a groove there. Yeah. And so, people from Fargo were like, the Mandan sound is what they started describing that as. Yeah.
I didn't realize that. Yeah. That makes sense a bit.
Yeah. So it was like, because it's hard to put your, I always hated that whole, like, well, what do you guys play? I mean,
we're crust grind.
Yeah. You could, we
hardcore.
We started doing like everything core. So Bananarama Core, just to fuck with people, But,
I don't know. I always hated those descriptions too, especially when I was promoting shows, and then to like make each individual band like it's this sound. Like I get that you kind of have to promote that, but when it was crust this, crust that, I started making fun of it, and I was putting thin crust, thick crust.
I remember those.
PB&J with the crust cut off.
I remember those. That's where we kind of came up with like that, like I said, Bananarama Core, or like I don't know, I'm thinking ones off the top of my head, but just basically any ridiculous word with core behind it, you know, because everything was core. In fact, there were even bands that were just like Core from Minot or something like that. Like, what the fuck, man? What does that even mean? So we didn't know what we were calling ourselves or what we were doing. I guess at the time it was probably like, we thought it was like a death punk sort of mixture or whatever, but it was more like grindcore, I guess, in the end. We didn't do as much blast beating as like a Napalm Death or something like that, but like it was kind of in the same vein. But we did things that were a little bit different at the time, and not a lot of other bands were putting like stoner rock kind of bluesy riffs in the middle of all that. So just fucking and then boom, slow it down to this boom, that kind of shit. And so that was a kind of a different thing we were doing. And as time goes on, your influences change and shit, So we did the first album as a new tradition in the celebration of life, and that one's kind of a really raw recording and kind of just really.
By yourself?
Yeah, we had I wish I could remember the guy's name. His name was Corey, and
in Minot?
yes.
Corey
Pro, there you go.
Yeah.
Yep. So we went up there for a weekend and just did some stuff in his basement.
Oh, at his house,
and,
yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so
Yeah.
when I was in the Pink Slips, we recorded there too.
Oh, you did? Okay.
And we all had these weird like ghost story experiences in the place. Yeah, it was just weird because we went there and it was hot. It was in July. Old house, no central air conditioning.
Yeah.
And then we froze in one room. And then who I was hanging out with, she said she woke up, thought she saw old people like looking at us, and then they faded away.
Oh God.
And then the people in the next room over that had the door open in between us, they were sweating the whole night, didn't even sleep with blankets. And then
Wow.
Kelly, when she was on the main floor, the door kept opening and somebody like walking in to go downstairs. So she had to like hop up. She's always on crutches and it pissed her off. She'd have to go close the door. So the next morning, we're all complaining about these like stupid annoyances. And the guy, Corey, was like, well, I didn't want to say anything because I didn't think you'd come here and record. But this place has, he didn't say haunted, but is like housed by spirits or something like that, you know.
I think that rings a bell.
But it's
bit.
okay. They're nice. They're kind, and we're like, okay.
I think that rang a bell. That rings a bell. Like that sounds like. Yeah, now that you mention it, I think he kind of. But at that time, we were like the most anti-dramatic, like ghosts get fucked.
Get
you know
fucked,
what
man.
are you talking about? And then we didn't sleep there either.
Okay,
we ended up getting a room at the Ho Hum. And if you have any idea what the Ho Hum is, it was like an extended stay motel, like the fucking shits, man. The fucking toilet of mine. It's not there anymore. Gross.
Yeah.
Disgusting, cheap place. We just stayed there the one
That's
night.
all you can afford, of course.
And we, I don't know, maybe he did offer us to stay there, but we didn't end up staying at his place. So anything that he would have said for like ghosts or anything like that or haunted or something, we probably would have, whatever, man. But yeah, so we did that album, and then that was 2001. I think we actually released it in 2002. By the time we had released that, we were kind of almost getting a little sick of some of those songs because we played them for so long. And there was a new kind of influences that we, you know, like I listed some of those off before. And it ended up being more like Vision of Disorder, Acid Bath, you know, some of these like more a little bit more on the, well, Vision of Disorder would be a little, you know, more of a hardcore band. When Imprint came out in 1998, we loved that album. And I don't know how that just was a regular play. Are you familiar with Imprint by Vision of Disorder? God damn. It was the first album that I think I ever remember hearing that I was like, these guys are not like a death metal band. They're not metal really at all. They're hardcore, but the fucking recording was so like raw and hard, and it was just like, it was this the heaviest shit without being heavy. I don't know how else to describe it. It was just fucking And their first album was kind of a little bit more like new metal meets hardcore thing. And then their second album, Imprint, was just like, and it's just in your face from start to finish. And so we really were grooving on that. We were getting into Meshuggah and all this stuff. And so the second album that we ended up recording was like way groovier, way more, just more of that bluesy kind of sound that we were integrating in there, more rock and roll, like kind of gallopy rock and roll sound, and then into just like, you know, some crazy blast beaty something or another. But these are, so all this stuff, Omnipotent Belligerence, if you can look it up, if you search Omnipotent Belligerence, you got it up there. You will find YouTube. It's not us that posted it. It's a friend of ours from Fargo.
Oh, funny. And
he put, I think, all of that second album, which was Supplemental Guide to North Dakota Living. He put all of that, excuse me, on YouTube on his page, and you can go to his page and you can find all the old songs too on there.
Cool.
Which is really sweet that somebody did that, because there aren't a lot of copies of that floating around anymore.
Yeah,
I don't even know that I have a copy of either of those albums at this point, you know. But we took a hiatus. We're working on these songs. We recorded that. We actually did that one in Makoche.
Fuck.
Which was...
How'd you get the money for that?
We did it on a shoestring. We recorded... Kind of proud of this, actually. We practiced our asses off for weeks, and we said, okay, we have X amount of hours to go in there and do this for the recording and the mixing and mastering. We went in and recorded all those tracks live. There's, I believe, 8 songs on that album. Every one of them was done live in the studio. We were all in our own separate booths, but we could see each other. And I think maybe 2 songs required more than one take. Some of them we'd nail in one take.
Fuck yeah.
And it was like, we got to
That's
do this because
awesome.
we only have like $350 to fuck with or whatever we had. I don't remember how many it was at the time, how much money is actually involved. But yeah, and I remember we would do these dumb things too, where we were so in sync with each other. It was one cymbal hit and we were all there tempo wise, there wasn't, I remember the guy that recorded us was like, most of the time people count off 4. You guys just hit one China and you're like all playing together. I'm like, I don't know, that's just the way it is, Yeah. But even vocals were done in a booth, like live, all at the same time. There were a couple of me and Rob Sam actually had to go in and do our backing vocals, obviously. But that was about the only overdubbing that was done on that album. And then so it turned out sounding like super clean and nice compared to the first one. And like I said, it was a little bit more groovier stuff than what we were doing anyway. And the guy they were pretty good about. They knew we didn't have a lot of money, and so they were pretty good about like kind of rushing things along and making things work for what we had for money. And I mean, it turned out okay in the long run.
Yeah, that's kind of how we were too. We were on a shoestring budget of like $40, so we could get 2 hours at Higgins. It was $20 an hour.
We did Perosity at Higgins, our first album, yeah.
And I mean, that like we had nothing, but we
that.
wanted to record, and we didn't do it quite the same way because we definitely didn't practice our asses off for weeks. And then to kill our nerves for recording, a bottle of vodka and, just sip it on that and soda. Well, that doesn't really help you perform. And so, all right, let's record this. Oh, I fucked up. Fuck it. Keep going. And then you just have a piece of crap that you regurgitate out, put it on a tape right away, and listen to it in the car on the way home. And you're like, fuck yeah, that is awesome.
Yeah.
Let's duplicate this. We got an album. We're good to go. Later I look back, I'm like, man, I wish we put some time into it.
Well, same with the first Perosity record that we did with him too. It was, we had sound issues. Like we basically just had mattresses set up between, and we were recording all of it live with like mattresses separating. And my vocals, like I had a lot of heavy, you can't really tell because it's so loud on the recording, but I've got all this heavy like effects, like reverbs and stuff on my vocals. And then, my mic's here and Tim is right in front of me with his drums. So like you can hear that feeding through the, like that effect on the drums. And it was kind of a mess. I think we did that one pretty quickly too, but there were a few of them that were kind of a struggle. Yeah. I wish I'd have got a better production out of that, but what are you going to do? But I loved that, dude, that Toxic Shock Syndrome album. I loved that album.
Oh,
we played the shit out of that album. I loved it.
I'm glad somebody did.
Something so for real, man. It was man.
I liked it at the time. Sometimes
I don't know. I haven't listened to it. Maybe it sucks now.
Right. Yeah. I look back and I'm like, I don't know. Some of it was really good. Some of it was just rushed. Yeah. And Nordwall half the time was just drunk. So, and he had all his lyrics, and that kind of went to the grave with him, because you can't really, some of it we can decipher, but when you listen to the screaming and the chaos, you're not even sure what he's saying.
No, a couple times though, I've become a transparent eyeball. I don't know if that was actually the word or not, but that was the one that always stuck out to me. I'm like, that's the coolest fucking line. I don't know if that's what he was actually saying or not, but
yeah, Universal Being, I think.
Yes, dude, I love that album.
Yeah,
I love that album. Then we started playing shows with you guys all the time, and it was like, it was cool.
I was trying to think earlier. It was like, I bet we've played at least 20 shows together.
Probably, yeah.
I don't think that's a crazy number, but quite often. And that's like, you're one of those guys I've played more with than some of the other people in the scene.
Yeah,
but you've been around the whole time anyway.
Well, so we started, like I said, Perosity would have been late 97 was when we started. So, and then there was a little bit of a hiatus there. There was the, do you remember Smack Shaft?
Yes.
So
yeah, I do.
I was one of the original people that was in Smack Shaft too.
Okay.
So Tim, and then Sean Forty, and Lance Halverson, who was one of my best friends growing up. When I said the dudes that I would just play like Black Sabbath songs with, just guitar and bass, Lance was one of those guys.
Okay.
And I think we actually had initially done it for like a high school, Mandan High School Battle of Bands thing they did one year.
Oh,
and
right.
that was why we did it.
Yeah,
So we had 3 songs down. We played like a System of a Down cover, an Acid Bath cover. I can't remember what all of them were. And
that's how a lot of bands started.
Yeah,
just because of a battle.
It was like,
of the
yep,
bands.
there's something that's coming up, and we all jammed together before, and so we did that. And at the end of it, I was like, okay, well, I don't know that I really want to do new metal covers or anything, it was fun, but I kind of had other suggestions for what we should do, and I don't think anybody really liked a lot of my suggestions, so I kind of decided, all right, well, we'll do something else. And at that point, I played with Tim in Perosity, and played with him in that Smack Shaft. And then at that point, it became what we referred to later as the Great Divide. So it was me and Jamie Paul and Jeff Robsam. And then, we kind of were always together with Tim playing music and stuff, and then all of a sudden Tim was in Smack Shaft, and it became a completely different thing. You remember at like X Fest?
Yeah.
They came out kind of guns blazing, they were like, they sounded really good. They did really well. It was all covers or whatever, but it was cool stuff. And, there's a little jealousy there, of course. Like, hey, that's my drummer.
That's how I was too with Tom.
Yeah.
And you said it earlier too. When you just click with somebody, you stick with that person for a while. So I did that for years, where Tom and I just we could feed off each other and work really well together. And we played in various bands over the years.
Yeah.
If I ever start up something again, I would hope it would be with him. Even he's far away now, but
where is he now?
Fergus Falls.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so a bit of a drive for practice.
Yeah. If you were to put it together now, probably
that's
logistically it's So that was 99 X Fest, right? It was 99.
98, I think, was the first one. Maybe it was 99.
I think it was 99, and then
there's only
whole
2 that I remember.
But
only one there at the.
I think the other one was a couple of years after that, maybe. That other one might have been in like 2001. I know OB was a thing by the time the second one rolled around, and we didn't end up playing it for some reason. But that 99 till about April of 2000, no Tim, no drummer. So we just, I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but we just go to my buddy's place, Rob Sam's place, and we'd go down into his dad's basement, and he had a little jam room there, and we just smoke ourselves silly. And he had like a snare and a couple of toms set up like tribal style. And so some of that shit that's on that first OB record, we actually wrote, we just improv guitar and vocals over the top of these drums. Some of that actually made it into that first album, cool. Which is kind of wild. But I think it was Tim that reached out after that and was like, hey, I'm done with this. You guys want to do something? He's like, I want to do something heavy as fuck, man, And I think that's how it started. So April of 2000 was when we got going with that. And it took us till September before we even started playing like house parties and fucking around at friends' houses.
House shows are so much fun.
Yeah. So a buddy of ours, Dinger, we call him Dinger, Mightinger. Twice, I think he had house parties that he had us play at. And it was like, we were so out of place. I'm just like shredding, screaming and shredding. And but it was fun. So that was the beginning of that. And then we did that, from April of 2000 till somewhere in 2005, summer 2005 probably. And that's when Rob Sam ended up moving to Minnesota. And so it was like, well, I don't know that we want to replace. I don't think anybody's replaceable in this band. It's either the 4 of us or it's not,
over.
Yeah. And so I mean, it was a blast. I love that band. People still look back on it fondly. So do I. I don't want to toot my own horn, but I listen to that shit now, and I'm like that. Especially that second album. I fucking love it.
No, there's some bands that
it's relevant still, man. It sounds good. It's really. I'm really proud of it, and I really loved the whole show up in your town and fucking trash your town and just be like a heel wrestler and show up in your Rick Rude and you're fucking talking shit on everybody. People liked it, man. Sometimes they wouldn't get it the first time, but the second time we'd come and go, fucking Fargo, why don't you just like, we'll change the state line. I don't know how it was phrased, but change the state line so you can be in the same fucking state as that the city that you try to idolize or whatever.
Oh, right, of course.
You're not fucking Minneapolis. We're from Mandan. Fuck you. But people liked it. It was a hilarious thing that I loved it. I loved that whole we would intentionally write a riff and go, where should we go with this next? Where do you think people would think that we should go when we switch to this next riff? Let's do the absolute opposite.
Yeah, right.
Fake outs like a we're gonna fucking bring in this like punk beat thing and then just groove it slow or something. And so yeah, I was really proud of all that. But yeah, so 2005, I was already married by that point actually, because Kelly and I got married in October of 2004, and so we still kind of kept it going. I think it was probably about August or something of 2005. It was right after that that Rob Sam ended up moving away, and we just called it. And at that point, it was me and Tim, and we had tried to do some stuff with, because Happy End had broken up around the same time, so we had a little thing going with Dane and John from Happy End, and Jamie Paul, me and Tim. That kind of fizzled out before we even had a chance to play anywhere or whatever. And then from there, I think we were doing improv-y groove or like blues rock sort of thing. So DDT was what we ended up calling this thing. That's Dustin, and Tim.
Okay.
So do you remember Dustin Broughton? Guitar player. He played for Smack Shaft. He was a hell of a guitar player.
Yeah,
he's a fucking virtuoso, like guitar player, right? And yeah, so I think he had moved away for a while, and he moved back and got a hold of us. So it was the three of us, me, him, and Tim. And it was just a 3-piece jam band, basically. And we bordered on a little bit of kind of rocky stuff, kind of ended up sounding like a little Rage Against the Machine type of thing, because everything was like blues, pentatonic scale-based stuff.
Cool.
And some slap bass. Just fucking around. It's like I've been playing with a pick and playing this heavy, fast shit for so long, and I kind of leaned into that. And then at the same time, Jamie Paul was playing drums with a dude named Elliot Johnson. He's a little bit younger than us even. Well, you're younger than me too. I shouldn't really sit here and go.
Yeah.
But anyway, Elliot was, again, one of these just like virtuoso guitar players. I mean, just like he didn't even have to try, and he was just amazing. And so at the same time, I had two like blues funk style improv groups that I was doing at the same time. And actually, the only time we ever played in those two bands was the same show. So I did double duty, and we played at, oh my God, what was that played? The Roundup, dude. Roundup Bar and Band? Yeah. And that was in like 2007, I think. So that was the era there. Yeah, I think my wife was actually pregnant with our first son at that point.
Okay.
2007. I think she was like really pregnant.
Yeah.
Like uncomfortably.
Yeah,
like
just
swelly pregnant. Yeah, swelly. Yeah, she was pregnant through the summer, so that was miserable. But anyway, yeah. And then that kind of dissolved, and then I just didn't do anything for a couple of years. I played with my brother, who played drums. I played in a cover band with him and some older gentlemen for a while. We called Highway 6, classic rock covers.
Cool.
So I was like kind of going in different directions. I didn't know what I wanted to do. That got to a point where my second son was on the way, and I was like, hey man, this whole like practicing every Friday and playing out of town gigs and stuff, I just don't know that this is gonna work for me right now. So I kind of stepped away, and at the same time I started a second job, and I was really just trying to put it together. Like it was like we had one kid already, we were struggling, let's bring another one in and see what happens.
Well,
so
yeah.
I was working a second job, and I was working like 60 hours a week, and so I wasn't thinking about music for a while there, and it probably took about a year, and then all of a sudden I get Jamie Paul, Matt Foster, and Tim Martinez, and they're all kind of jamming together. I never played with Matt Foster before. Yeah. And he was just that dude at the scene. He was always up your ass with a camera when you're on stage, running around. And I was like, this dude's cool, but I never really heard him play guitar before, Uh-huh. And so I think it was 4th of July. I would say it was probably about 2011, 2012, somewhere around there. I can't remember the dates on those. And somebody had played, I think Jamie Paul had played me some stuff, and I'm like, it sounds like the fucking Sword or something, man. This stuff is cool. It's like, like sludgy fucking stoner rock stuff, low tune, B-tune stuff. And they were trying to talk me into coming and playing, and I was like, God, I'm fucking busy. I don't really want to. I'm like, you know what? Once I heard that, I said, and Tim's involved, let's do this. And that it clicked immediately, the four of us. And then we got Austin on vocals, and that became Stone Cloud Sunday. And that was another album that I'm pretty proud of the way it came out. And it was a fun time.
Nice.
A little bit more laid back, slow, groovy sort of thing. Not so, again, not so much. I did that metal thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
the OB thing is like, it's there. And now I don't even care if I ever do that again.
Yeah. I've done that. I don't know. Almost every band I've been in was a different genre, style. I mean, some punk still influences all in between. But
Yeah. And it's like you kind of get bored with something and it's like, oh, this is different. I started singing, like backup vocals and stuff, singing. I did that in that classic rock cover band too, but and then I started gaining a little confidence and I guess I can kind of sing a little bit too, which I never did before other than screaming, because we were just, that was what it was. And then so I'm trying to think of the dates on that too, but Stone Cloud played a lot at the one or whatever that theater was called, the theater in Mandan. Played for one of the last shows we played was Soulfly was there. So Max Cavalera and Soulfly, and I don't remember where they were trying to book a show. We ended up playing at the Mandan Eagles with Soulfly. I think Tim at the time was like, I don't know if I even give a shit about playing music anymore. He's like, I just played a show with Max Cavalera.
All right.
Whatever. And he ended up moving away out right after that anyway. I think that was kind of happening anyway, but that was kind of the way that fell apart. We got Kevin Settling in on drums for a while, and I think everybody was just kind of a little bored with what we were doing, or it really wasn't, and nobody was in the same direction, going the same direction, or whatever you want to call it, and that kind of fell apart. But in that, though, I realized that, so Tim was my drummer, always was my drummer. We were the rhythm section, and then I did a lot of stuff with Jamie Paul. We made a lot of cool music together, but Matt Foster became like my new brother in music. That leads to today. Now we've done a couple of things together now, and currently Penumbra. So it's kind of a cool little thing to be able to, Penumbra, yeah.
Where's that name come from?
Penumbra is, I could read you the dictionary definition, but it's basically like, during a eclipse, there's that cone, that black cone sort of darkness.
Yeah.
That's the umbra. And then the not quite opaque, darker areas where there's a little bit of light and a little bit of dark, that's the penumbra.
Okay.
If you look at it, I could show you
Yeah.
I didn't come up with it. Nicole, our singer, came up with it. She had that name, I think, picked out before she even
Right.
I'm
always curious about band names and where they come from.
Yeah. And it really is it really is appropriate. At first I was like, I didn't really, Penumbra, it's kind of a weird sounding word to me.
Right, yeah.
And then I kind of read what the definition of it was, and it was like, oh, this is kind of a perfect description for this band. Because you've got Nicole, who is, her voice is just, everybody that hears her voice is just blown away. I mean, I've had people tell me, some of the younger people in the scene, my son's band actually, some of those guys were like, sounds like she's got auto-tune because she's always in key. She's got this perfect, beautiful voice. But there's this certain brooding darkness that we have to this band too. It's a cool sound.
I've only heard you guys more recent, and I'm like, God damn, that's a good band. Actually, it's weird now how we have a lot fewer bands than we used to. You kind of spoke fondly of that time from 2000 to 2005. Really, was such a heavy with concerts and so many different artists in the music scene. A lot of people moved away. Some bands just never recovered, broke up. But when I went to that last show, Fest.
No, you name it Fest, yeah. Yep.
Dang near every band was so good. I mean, the quality is there now. Not the quantity, but I wish we had more venues, more bands.
I wish we had more venues too. There's plenty of bands, and there's this community. It's like we're all so tightly, it's a community.
It really is. It didn't used to be. It almost felt we were all playing together, but there was kind of
there was a competition.
Yeah, it really was.
Back in the day, like the OB days.
Yeah.
We were fucking assholes.
Yeah.
And that's what we were. And we would show up and if this band wasn't something that we liked, it was like, well, fuck them. We don't like
we're
them,
out.
you know?
Yeah.
Whereas like nowadays, I will give it more of a chance because I've been through so many different genres of music and played so much different stuff now. It's like, well, I can see I can see what's cool about that.
Yeah.
Whereas back when we were younger and we were a little bit more ignorant, we'd be like, fuck, that's lame. So it was always like there was a competition there.
Yeah.
And we were, like I said, we were just assholes.
Yeah.
I thought charmingly so sometimes.
Well, yeah,
but,
yeah. Well, that's what we thought, but we were kind of the same too, you know.
Yeah,
we were
that's
trying
why
to-
our attitudes fit really well. That's why
Yeah.
we ended up playing a lot of shows together like that. And but yeah, with Penumbra, it's this community it's amazing.
Every band was supporting each other and watching each other and just complimenting each other behind the scenes to other acts. Like, oh man, did you see these guys and those guys? And
it's great when you're playing.
So awesome. I've been out of the scene for far too long.
Get back in.
I need to now. Yeah,
pull you back in, man.
It seems so warm.
It is.
Like I said, I want to help in a way of venues though. You know, like maybe try and get some more places to open their doors or something.
That would be amazing. I don't know where you would go with a lot of this. You know, there are bars. There's plenty of bars. You know, I mean, like Pub 21. I've seen a lot of bands playing at Pub 21 lately. There's places that are actually starting to book more local talent rather than
Still an advocate for all age shows, though.
I agree.
Always have been. I mean, I was at that age, 16 to 20. Couldn't see bands that were at the bar, and that pissed me off all the time. And, you know, doing my own shows, I always kept them all ages. I only did a very few, you know, where we're at a bar here and there. But you kind of age out of a certain period, I guess, and then you just kind of have to. All your friends just want to have beer anyway. They don't even care that a band is playing.
That's true.
Like,
Yeah, the coolest ones were when they were all ages, but you got the wristband of the stand.
oh, right,
and you could still
Eagles.
drink Pabst. Yeah, the Eagles, that's, a couple times that we played up
Midtowner
there
was good for that too, when you could go upstairs.
Yeah.
When it was Stadthaus, though, the Germans, they were. I went up there. I don't know how old I was. I wasn't 21.
We weren't fucking 21
No,
either.
but it started with me going up there, settling a bill at the end of the night.
Yeah.
And then I was like, "Hey, could I try one of those Bitburgers?" The German beer.
Yeah,
and he's like,
Bitburger, yeah.
I forgot what that guy's name was. But
Klaus.
Klaus. He's
Klaus
like,
and Heidi, I think.
yeah.
Yes, they were so fucking cool, man.
And he was like, sure, I paid for it. He cracked it open and I drank that. Then I told like Tom and Josh that, you know, later. And then we were there the next show. We were doing shows there all the time. So we went upstairs and we started drinking and they weren't carding us. And then word just got out and that place was packed upstairs during a show with really a bunch of kids
They
drinking.
sold a shitload of beer, though.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah, they did.
But yeah,
they
we
do.
we did the
But
same thing.
we were all pretty controlling of it too, in a sense of like who we're gonna let in. You know, you could kind of tell there's a kid who's too young or someone we didn't really know. We're like, no.
Someone
sorry.
that might get drunk and be kind of a fuckhead
Yeah,
or whatever.
exactly.
Yeah,
Fuck it
there
up for
wasn't-
all the rest of us.
Exactly. So yeah, it was everybody behaved themselves, and I think there's a certain amount of respect that we did show for like, okay, if we're gonna be up here drinking illegally and these fucking people are so nice and they're not carding us, and I don't mean to throw them. I don't think they live here anymore. I'm pretty sure.
No, I think
pretty
something
sure they got
happened with their
deported
visa.
like years
Yeah.
ago, but.
Yeah.
So whatever, we can say whatever we want, but
Yeah.
boy, did we fucking drank shitloads of beer up in that bar.
Yes, we
and
did.
it was like we were, like you said, standing there, and it's like not a single one of us is 21 years old, and we're all just nailing back German beers and great times, man.
Great times. Love that period.
Yeah,
I
and
moved to Mandan in '96. Went to freshman year there. I'm going through freshman orientation, and the principal comes out and he's talking to us about staying away from a group of people that would go down and smoke on this area. And I'm like, well, I wonder who those guys are.
Yeah, I wonder who.
So
those
I think
people were.
afterwards we were done. I had to walk by that at some point in that week, and it was you guys.
Oh, of course.
The principal was telling everyone else to stay away from you
It's
guys.
like, and it was almost like there was this insurgency. Like we just deal with them. We keep them at arm's length.
Yeah,
you
yeah.
guys just stay away from them. Better off. We can't do anything about them. They're down there. It's hilarious because nowadays we'd be fucking arrested. I mean, can you imagine
right.
smoking cigarettes? Like, a half a block from the front entrance of the door to the high school. I mean, not a chance.
Yeah.
But somehow or another.
Times were different, so it wasn't as ballsy. It was, but...
Definitely different, though, back then.
Yeah.
And yeah, they called us the Parkers.
Parkers.
Because that park down there, we just sit around there smoking cigarettes and other things. And, that's funny, though, man. I never knew that.
Yeah.
I never knew that.
That
like,
was my...
Other kids,
my
new
introduction to Mandan High was to stay away from you.
Stay away from... That was great, man. Great times.
Great times.
And somebody, and there's debate on who, a long time ago, so I had remembered a certain person had like spray painted Parkers. Do you remember that on that wall, that retaining wall down there?
Yeah, I do know.
I think it was like semester tests one year. We were just hanging out down there and we were all there. It was like we set up camp and we sat there all day long. I don't even know if I was in school anymore at that point. I was probably, I might not have been. I might have been suspended or who knows. But yeah, then somebody had spray painted that and that was there for like 10, 15 years before they finally covered it up or got rid of it.
Good Lord.
Before they painted it.
Yeah,
it said Parker's written
That's
in,
funny.
like, in black.
Did you ever get a
paint.
picture of that?
Oh, I don't think so. I know you say, the hindsight sort of thing.
Right.
Like, I wish I was.
Well, who carried cameras back then?
Yeah, right. Well, that's the other thing. Yeah. And goddamn, those are good times.
Mm-hmm.
Now you can't even walk through a neighborhood and it's like you're surveilled by everybody with their Ring doorbells. And
I'm surprised people even pull shit any.
I don't know how you can. I don't know how you get away
in
with
this
anything.
time. Yeah, you're always on camera.
I feel bad for my kids. It's like when I was 17, we were fucking around. I mean, that was what we did.
Oh, I'm so glad I didn't have social media then.
Oh,
like
I
the
know.
shit I did or would have recorded would have been online ASAP because I would have thought it was funny.
Yep.
And we did some horrendous stuff.
Taking photos of everything and stuff like that. And that immediately would have been posted or something. Yeah. So we actually did home video style, like Pantera's, like their home video style. We kind of took a cue from that.
Right,
Somewhere there are a bunch of little 8mm tapes of us partying and doing all kinds of crazy shit.
I've got a bunch of tapes too of us partying.
But it never made it. It never made it to the World Wide Web. So far.
Yeah, it's still on 8mm or high 8.
Yep, the high 8s. Yep. Yeah. So there's hours and hours of us partying on there. Sometimes just sitting there, just smoking, passing a joint around in a car and sitting in a van or something like that, and just somebody's recording every worthless footage, but
that was me with my friends too.
But it's there, and we watched it, and there's some funny shit that stuck around, like little references and stuff that still pop up to this day.
You record your shows too?
We would probably. We didn't actually do it with like our own equipment necessarily, but there was always somebody around. That was
like
it.
Matt Foster, Ryan Schweitzer.
Foster was around. Yep. All those dudes were around back then, and so John Geck, he just had he put up an OB show. I think it was Geck. Put up an OB show from 2001, September of 2001. It was just our set.
Cool.
And then he had a Happy End one too from around that same period.
Yeah.
And so he just put those on YouTube like a couple of within the last year or two.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Man.
And what a blast.
I got to check that out.
Was, dude, September 21. Like, holy shit, we were barely even getting rolling at this point. But
right.
It was cool to see that. And so, there's a lot of that people have. I guess Geck says he's got a bunch of stuff that he just needs to convert over. Foster, I'm sure, has cases of, I don't know where he keeps all the shit, but he's got to have cases and cases of just, different shows. Because he, like I said, he was always there. Yeah. And he was always getting in on the action. It's like all of a sudden he's like
close up right on your guitar. Man, that'd make me nervous too.
I know.
Like, I'd be playing it. You could still play for like a few hundred people. I was telling somebody this. And if everybody's vibing, having a good time, you get into it. But if you're playing like a big open room at like a hotel ballroom, there's only a few people standing in the back with their arms crossed, and you're up there playing, I get more nervous that way.
Absolutely.
Or even if there's like a show with a bunch of people, Ryan Schweitzer would come up and just put his camera on me and start watching what I'm doing when I'm playing. Always going to fuck up.
Inevitably? You're gonna play a sour note. Like, God damn it.
Fucking Schweitz.
I tell you, that's why that venue, Midtown or Stadthaus, Starlight, whatever the hell it was over the years, that's why that was such a cool place, because there was always pretty much always a decent crowd.
Yeah.
Everybody was into it. It was always seemed packed, even if it wasn't.
Right.
There's other place that I should try to remember. I think it was called The Compound. It's been so many years ago now. But it was our regular spot that we played in Fargo, and it was like an old gas station just off of Main Street, like I want to say it was like 27th and a half Street off of Main Avenue in Fargo. It was somebody acquired this old gas station. So it was just this long, narrow room on the one side. And you'd play on this far wall. I mean, when I say narrow, it's like maybe a little bit, probably 50% bigger than the room we're sitting in right now. Wall. Right. So you were just in this little crammed area, and there was probably 40 people, 50 people, but it felt like 150 people in that place. Fucking sweating, miserable, hot summer days.
Oh, yeah.
Beer fucking flying everywhere. It was just one of the hot, humid days. I mean, there was fucking water just dripping down the walls and shit in there, and we walked out of there, and I remember Tim was like, my fucking hardware got corroded in there, dude. It was that humid and gross in there. But it was so cool, and it was just that intimate. Everybody was right up front.
Oh, yeah, you're sharing sweat and body fluids.
Gross. Yeah,
yeah.
It was fucking
None of us showered on a regular basis back then.
No, I couldn't imagine how bad we actually smelled back then, too. I mean,
you
come
got
out of a show, hop in the van, drive home, like, probably must have been pretty ripe, yeah.
Oh, yeah. It's like living on a farm. You kind of get used to that
Yeah,
shit smell,
exactly.
You know?
Yeah. Oh, that just smells like fucking balls and armpits. Okay. That's what this venue smells like. So.
You ever play at the Liberty in Minot?
No, we never played Minot a lot.
That's weird.
Yeah.
We played there a lot. If it wasn't, if it was outside Bismarck Manor, it was usually Minot.
That's weird. Yeah, they have more of a punk scene going up there, probably.
Right.
Yeah. See,
punk and metal, but
they did. Okay.
Yeah.
OB, I don't think ever played in Minot that I can remember. Ours is more of a Fargo thing.
They had a venue at an old bar that was about the size of a trailer. Just a small little stage and a long room. Mm-hmm. That was, the floorboards were busted and, just falling apart. The shitter was always fucked up. Yeah. It was nasty, hot and sweaty, but man, those kids knew how to have fun. And they loved every band that played.
Yes.
It didn't matter what you were playing. You could have gone out there and just shit into a microphone. They would have loved it.
There would have been some people that would have been like, this is
this is awesome.
Those are the best, though. I mean, those grimy, nasty places were sometimes were the most fun places to play.
Yeah.
And like the crowds were just into it. And that's,
Well, a good age too. I mean, when you're young, that's 16 to 21.
Same. We were 20.
You're all angry, confused, looking for something. And when you find like a harmony in music, you find friends for life too.
Yeah, we did. That's true.
Yeah.
I mean, to this day, I've forged, friendships with people that they're still around. I still end up playing music with people that...
Yeah.
I mean, there's still, obviously some of them are really good friends, but that, we never stopped being friends, but we didn't always play together. But now cause I play with Jonathan Sen, the Hellhound Band. That was one of the sets I did at the You Name It Fest.
Yeah, I missed that one.
That was early. We played at, 2:00 in the afternoon or something like that. But again, that's the Happy End, Lords of Sorcery dudes that we, just always, we shared a jam space and stuff. And, I told that to my kids as they started coming up and started playing music. That's actually when I was kind of motivating them to get, if you're going to do this. Don't fuck around and I don't really feel like practicing today. Fuck that. Just make it your thing, because you ain't got nothing else. You're not a fucking athlete or anything like that, So this is your thing, and I guarantee you're gonna make friends, and you're gonna have these this brotherhood that goes on forever. And it's true. It's a magical thing, man. It really is. I feel like maybe if you're in a rec basketball league together, I guess maybe you probably have that kind of thing too. But I feel like this just bonds us more than anybody that played high school sports. would, be bonded to people that they played sports with. I guess I don't know. I wasn't in that world. But
I wasn't either, but yeah. No, you're absolutely right, though.
I was out of the scene for a while. I didn't really do anything for a few years. And then Wildly Appropriate, I ended up playing some shows with them. And they're not around anymore, but the members are pretty much still around. I don't know if you know who Wildly is, I guess. But Wildly Appropriate, Sonda Sowers, Ms. Monogreen.
Okay.
And Kit Pines.
Okay.
And Sky Fralick and Gus.
Right on.
Yeah, Gus from the record store was on keys. I didn't know these people. I knew Sonda. I literally only knew Sonda. And the only reason I knew Sonda was because my best friend, Jeff Robsam, who I played with in Perosity and OB and everything, that was his little sister.
Oh. So,
I knew her when I was hanging out at his place every day during high school.
Yeah.
She was a few years behind us or whatever, so she was like maybe 6, 7 years old or something like that. And all of a sudden, I had run into her playing somewhere around town, and she's singing and playing guitar, and I'm like, well, what the hell? And so, they were looking for a bass player, because Sky was in like 5 different projects or whatever at the time, maybe 4. But he's a busy bee, man, so he'd like get double booked, and they'd need to find a replacement or somebody to do bass for him. And so she asked me to come on, and I remember Matt Foster telling me when I told him, I'm going to play some shows with Wildly Appropriate. Sonda kind of just, called me up, wanted me to fill in, and we'll see how this goes or whatever. It's kind of I don't know any of these songs. We'll try. I'm going to play a couple hours with him here and there. And he goes, dude, once you start playing, everybody's going to want to have you play bass for him or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, well, maybe. He's like, you've been out of the scene for too long. I guarantee it. All these people are playing the same bands, and they play in multiple bands, and you're going to have people that are going to want to play with you. And pretty much that's the way it went, yeah. Mm-hmm. And so I was doing that with them. They were kind of falling apart. Drummer Bryce ended up moving away, and they were kind of everybody's doing their own thing or whatever.
Fucking drummers moving, man.
I know, right? God. Right? I think he's in Duluth now, which is kind of an awesome place to be.
Yeah.
So you can't fault him for that. But
No, I mean, they all moved to better places.
I know,
sure,
but they're the ones that are taking off, it seems like.
But nobody replaces
right?
them, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, what? Yeah. Did you say he lives in Minnesota tw?
Yeah, Fergus Falls.
Fergus, that's right. Okay. Man, I haven't seen that guy in decades.
Yeah.
Literally.
Yeah. I had him on here a few months back.
Okay.
So he told part of his story. Go back, check that one out too.
I will. So then it ended up being, I think it was 22, the summer of 22 when I was playing with Wildly. So it started out with like one gig. And then I did like an impromptu, like, hey, can you do this thing for us in Fargo at the aquarium on like this Friday type of thing? So I traveled with them and played with them, and I barely even learned their songs and played like a 45-minute set with them,
Yeah.
Then we did a couple other little things. Then we did a Laughing Sun one where I can't remember if we played 3 hours or we played 2 hours and there was an opener. I think there was an opener, yes. But we played 2 hours worth of music together, and I had the fucking greatest time. I was so fucking fun playing with those guys.
Yeah.
And then, so it turns out like a few months later, I had met Nicole. She was actually living with those guys, with Sonda and those guys at the time. And kind of just, I'd seen her play, and I was like, oh my God, her voice is amazing. And I like, I'd play with her sometime if she ever wanted to, but she was pretty fresh in Bismarck. She came from Oregon, is where she was living, and came out here, and I was kind of an implant, and I was like, well, I don't really know her. I don't really want to, we're friendly and stuff, but first time I ever saw her play, even I was like, God, she needs a bass player and a drummer or something, And so she was playing a solo show around Christmas of 2022. And then she, forgive me if I'm rambling a lot here. That's what I love. But she, we were watching her, and she was doing some just amazing stuff. And she had Sonda and Kit Pines up because they were in the Good Boys together, which is just the three of them that do just each other's songs, and they have these beautiful harmonies because they all have these amazing voices and stuff. And so it was a solo show she was doing, had some guests up and stuff. And I think during one of the set breaks, this is at Laughing Sun, by the way, at one of the set breaks, I was just sitting there. My wife had gone over and went to get a beer or whatever, was sitting by myself, and she just comes over and she goes, hey, do you want to start a band? And I was like, yeah, let's do that. Sure. Okay. And she like high-fived me and said, all right, I'll get a hold of you. And so that's how that started. It was just this, I kind of always thought, oh, I'd like to play with her sometime. And she came out and like picked me out. And then next up was Foster. She wanted as a lead guitar player. And,
Cool.
And that's how Penumbra got started. And we had Kevin Setterlin on drums. And it took a little while to get a drummer. We tried a couple of different people out. And then with Kevin, we had played with him before. Foster had played with Kevin when they were kids.
Oh, right.
So they had a, relationship music-wise. Yeah, kind of just took off from there and it started with like Nicole's got 10 original songs. We're going to put our accompaniment to it and write our own parts for it. They're Nicole's songs we're playing on basically, which we kind of made them our own or whatever.
Yeah.
But now we progressed into, and now Kevin had left the band and we've got Nick Just, Finest Line Divides. He also plays with me in the Hellhound band with John Sen. Okay. So it was kind of nice that we had a little bit of a rapport there too from playing, with John. But he hopped in and I mean, he's doing great. His sound is, it's different than Kevin's, but I like it. Mm-hmm. It took a little bit to, as a bass player and a drummer, especially, it's like you lock in and there's sometimes it's like immediate and sometimes you're used to doing something like I was with Kevin.
It's hard to get past.
Yeah. And then you like, it took me a little bit to feel, and now it's like we're locked in, and it feels really nice. But we're writing more songs together, trying to play a little bit more and stuff. But it's a really cool vibe that we've got going on with that band, and I'm pretty proud of it. So,
nice.
Yeah.
What do you got coming up in 2025?
As far as what's on the books right now,
we've
got a show in Minot at the Original in 2 weeks. That's on May 17th.
Okay.
With Avantide. And so that's going to be a blast. So that's two pretty good bands at a really cool venue that I've never been to, but I've heard some amazing things about.
17th. What's that fall on?
It's a Saturday.
Okay.
Excuse me. So Saturday, May 17th. Yeah. I mean, we were advertising the shit out of it. I don't know how many people are going to come out from Minot. Hopefully a lot.
Yeah.
But the Original, I guess, some real serious bands have played there, some real serious touring bands. It's a real venue.
I played there, so, it's got to be.
Oh, shit. Have you really?
Yeah, once.
Damn,
a long time ago.
It's like a real venue, though, right? I mean, like a decent big stage and real sound and stuff. Yeah. So, again, I haven't been there. I'm pretty excited for it. That's on the 17th of May. And then the other one is also in Minot that I have on the books is June 20th. And that's going to be with Camp Comfort and Ms. Monogreen. And I'll probably end up hopping up with Sonda and doing some Ms. Monogreen stuff with her, too.
Cool.
And then Penumbra, of course. And that's June 20th. And that one you'll have to keep up on Penumbra's. You can find us at Penumbra Music on Facebook.
Yeah, give me the socials, too.
Yeah, so Penumbra Music on Facebook. You can pretty much find everything from there. I don't do Instagram or anything like that. I'm sure you can find us on all the other socials as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, keep up with that one. June 20th. I don't think we really advertised it yet. Camp Comfort, if you've never seen them, they're a blast. They are a party. But that one's either going to be at Atypical or The Spot in Minot, is what I've heard anyway. So I think it's going to be Atypical. Other than that, I don't have a lot of stuff booked in town or anything. Last year, we were doing festivals at this time of the year. We did Prairie Pothole in July. That's not happening this year. We did our first gig ever as Penumbra was at Moonfest in 2023. Moonfest isn't happening, and never last year either. So it's almost like I come along and we play, and then it just everything falls apart. I ruin festivals or something. I don't know. I didn't do anything wrong, I swear. But yeah, we're having a good time with that. It's fun. So,
nice. Yeah, the band sounds great. Recording.
We're in the process.
Okay.
We're DIY. In the jam space. We've got most of the stuff. We've got a few things we need to do vocally yet. Most of it's already there. We just need to get it mixed and mastered, and hopefully it's going to sound okay. Doing like 5 songs. It's more of a demo type of thing. I'm sure we'll release it or whatever, but at this point we just wanted to have some of these songs recorded and available for people to listen to other than just some half-assed live stuff from Laughing Sun or something. Not that those don't turn out sometimes, but...
So you
starting
plan
with-
on releasing anything physical or just digital media?
I think we probably will. It depends on how it turns out, but I mean, I think that is the idea. Other than that, we didn't really get into cars very much, did we?
I know, right?
I've got some great,
Just some life story.
great shitty fucking car stories. Beyond my first vehicle, which was actually a nice vehicle, I've had some real shit boxes.
Yeah.
Fords, more Fords. Ford Escort was the worst car and the best car I ever had. Because who gives a shit?
They were fun. But yeah, you're right. Shit cars.
Yeah, man. Escort that I had was, I mean, it came as a shitty thing because it was my mother-in-law's and she passed away in 2006, but she didn't have a lot and she had this, but the one thing that she did have was this 1990 Ford Escort. Hatchback, red, kind of pink in certain, because it was like faded.
Yeah,
So it's
yeah.
like, I mean, it ran great. Tilt steering. So the steering wheel was stationary. I'm a big guy.
Yeah.
So, yeah, like I would literally have to take one leg and slide it underneath and then slide in. And then the steering wheel was like right here, my crotch basically. 5-speed. That thing though was a champ in the winter, a champ. It was amazing. I don't know what it was. If it had fresh tires on it and it got great gas mileage at that time, it was like 2006, 2007. Gas prices were absolutely insane. Sometimes it was like $3.50 a gallon or more, And I had gone from that van was like my main. I still had the van, the '94 Club Wagon at that time, and that was like my main driver. And it's like, Jesus, I'd be lucky if I get 14 miles a gallon. That thing,
Of course.
So when this car came available, and my wife was like, I know my mom would want you to have that, whatever. So, oh my God, did I drive? Just drove it like basically trying to kill it. I would let the oil go down to the point where it would like tick, 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 tick. And I would add oil and the tick would go away. I'm like, fuck, I just want to kill this thing so I can get a new car, There was one funny story though with that thing. I was driving down 7th Street in Bismarck, like right by the mall, and there's what street is it that goes over from like JCPenney and goes over by like ID Ford and stuff over to 9th and 12th.
Yeah.
The east and west road.
Is that
there.
Sweet?
It might be. No, Sweet's up by the event center. It doesn't matter. Either way.
Yeah, right.
Either way, I am in the far left lane. This is like morning. I had to go to the bank for a job that I was doing, and it was a Saturday. So I was already not in a good mood that I had to go to work on a Saturday. And I had to go to the bank and like get the deposit bag and shit. And I'm driving. I'm in the far left lane, and there's a guy in a Cadillac. Keep in mind, this is a 1990 beat up, shabby, shitty looking red fucking Escort hatchback. Fucking scratches, dents all over it, faded panels. Far left lane, a dude in a Cadillac is in like the middle right lane. And that street, suddenly he decides, I want to turn left onto that street. And we're both going south on 7th. And he just comes without signaling or anything, just over one lane and then into my lane. Basically just ran me into the curb. Like, oh, it didn't even exist. Boom, hit me. And so he gets out of his car. I get out of my car. The cops showed up. I think he probably called the cops. I don't remember. But they showed up like right after that. And it was just kind of a hilarious thing because it was his fault. Obviously you're supposed to tell, cops that it's not. And
of course.
He did. And the cop comes over to me and he goes, well, he told me this and this. I go, that's bullshit. I said, I was in the left lane. I was going to go down to Expressway and take a left. And I was in that far left lane. He came over 2 lanes and ran right into me. I didn't do anything. All I could do was brake. And he goes back over and he asks the guy about it. And the guy goes, yeah, that's what happened. Right?
Yeah.
So his insurance company had to pay for my damage on my vehicle, which this thing was not worth. I mean, it was worth like a few $100s.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Of course, it's weight and metal.
$1,700 or something in damages on this thing. It's so funny. I think I used that as a down payment for my next car or whatever. That traded that thing in and probably got $500 for it, and then had a little bit for something else. But
nice.
That was kind of a funny story with that one. But
I see that happen so many times on that. I don't know what it is. An old guy, was he?
He was a middle-aged, business-looking guy.
Just a dipshit.
He's a fuck, yeah.
I've seen so many
no offense
older
in case
people
this
for
guy's
some reason
yeah.
be in that one of the middle two lanes, make a left turn, and I don't get it. If they're just not used to those types of lanes, you know, if they're just used to a single 2-lane.
A one-way with 4 lanes. How confusing this must be, right?
Yeah, it seems to confuse people all the time. I mean, for one, I see people go the wrong way off, and it's always an old person. But making those left turns from one of the bright 2 lanes is mind-boggling.
Yeah, didn't make my morning at all until later on when their insurance company called me like a week later, and I was like, "Oh fuck, this is kind of a cool thing that happened." Because I'm not
I've been trying to kill it for a while anyway.
I've been trying to kill it. That was another thing. I don't remember exactly. I mean, it already had some cracks and shit in the windshield when I got it, but there was some point where I was driving around Bismarck and it was winter, and somebody had cut me off really bad, and I had like slid and kind of bumped up against the curb or whatever, and I was just angry. So I just took my fist and just kind of punched the windshield, like, God damn it. And when I did that, it fucking blew out spider web, like, no. And then I drove around with that, because I'm not fixing this windshield on this thing either, you know. I'm not claiming it for insurance or anything. So I drove around with that spider web, like, all the way, like, down my
just a constant reminder of your anger, too.
Of how stupid I punched my fucking windshield.
Yeah.
But yeah, we ended up, you know, eventually getting rid of that car. But I tried to kill it. I would run it low on, like I said, run it low on oil, just drive the shit out of that thing to try to make an excuse to get a new car. Like, well, this thing's dead. What am I going to do? But yeah, after that, we traded in for a 07 Accord. And then we've had 3 Accords now. I've got one I drive for work. My wife's got a newer, like a 17 Accord. She's spoiled. Nice. It's an EXL. It's loaded up with leather and everything like that. Yeah. So
heated seats.
Oh yeah.
Fuck.
Oh,
that is the best. That's such a. I don't know. The first time I experienced that, I was like, I don't know why I don't have this. Oh, I know why. I can't afford it. Yeah. But man, that was nice.
Our first Honda was just pretty basic. It was a nice car and everything, but it didn't have all the creature comforts in it or whatever. And then they have such good resale that we ended up trading that one in and finding this one. And yeah, it cost a little bit more money or whatever, but it was like, now this is going to be, we paid it off, and I've talked about it because I'm one of those guys. I love cars. I'm not a motorhead or any shit like that, but I love cars, and I love car shopping. I'll just drive through lots and like, oh, look at that thing, look at that thing.
Yeah.
And so many times I'm like, you know, maybe we should fucking get rid of that Accord and get something else. I love my Accord. It's paid off. Shut up.
Yeah.
That's her response to me. So I'm like, that's fine. That makes more sense financially anyway.
Yeah, it really does.
Yeah.
New toys are fun though.
Oh yeah. I just love car shopping. And if like I tell that to any of my.
You ever just show up and test drive vehicles just for fun?
No, I don't know.
You gotta do that with your kid.
No, I don't have the balls to be that bold.
I don't either. But you know? I knew another guy who would take his kid, and they would just do that on Saturdays. I'm like, that sounds fun.
It's like getting those sales guys' hopes up so bad. So, like, it seems kind of shitty to do that, but it at the same time, it's like that's what they do. You know? I don't know. But I do love cruising the lots, and I always tell friends and relatives, like, if you're looking for a car and you want to go car shopping, let me know, dude. I will go with you. It'll be fun. Hell yeah. It'll be fun. And
I'll get a hold of you next time.
I know. Do it, man. Do it. I 9 times out of 10, I've researched that model enough that I know everything more than the sales guy does at that point anyway. So, for sure, dude.
You'll be my guy.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming on, man, sharing your story and telling me about some of the old school days.
Yeah, they're old. That's a long time ago now, man. So, and I hope I didn't ramble too much on some of those and give too much information about things that didn't need to be said as far as certain things go. But I get into a story and I start just kind of rambling.
I love all the details.
Yeah, it was a blast, man. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Yeah. Talk to you soon.
Yeah, you bet. Edit that out. That sucks. So anyway,